I hope you are well and finding the vagaries of winter comfortable enough, as very cold days seem to alternate with rather mild days, especially for the middle of winter. It is interesting to me that, I suppose nobody else, I'm quite sure, but to me it is interesting that both Groundhog Day and Tu B'Shvat occurred within the same week this year. Both speak to our yearning at just about this point in the winter for spring. As February 2nd falls midway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox, it is a significant day in several ancient and modern traditions. The Celts, for example, celebrated February 2nd as Imbolc, a pagan festival marking the beginning of spring. As Christianity spread through Europe, Imbolc evolved into Candlemas, a celebratory feast day for Christians. They believed that a sunny Candlemas meant another 40 days of cold and snow. The annual ritual was brought to the United States by German immigrants who chose the native groundhog as the annual forecaster. Tu B'Shvat, on the other hand, takes place on the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Shvat and celebrates the new year of the trees. It is at this time of year that we begin to see the first signs of spring in Israel. Tu B'Shvat originally became the date for calculating the beginning of the agricultural cycle for the purpose of biblical tithes, and also marks the beginning of the season in which the earliest blooming trees in Israel, namely the almond trees, begin to blossom, signifying a new fruit-bearing cycle. Although its Hebrew date is fixed, because the Hebrew calendar is primarily a lunar calendar, Tu B'Shvat can fall anywhere from about mid-January to early mid-February. In the Middle Ages, the custom developed to celebrate Tu B'Shvat with a feast of fruits. And in the 16th century, the Kabbalist, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, and his students instituted a Tu B'Shvat Seder in the image of the Passover Seder, in which the fruits and trees of the land of Israel were given symbolic meaning. We are now past both Groundhog Day on February 2nd and Tu B'Shvat this year on February 6th, but their hopeful message of spring's ultimate arrival grows stronger every day now, with a sense of appreciation, or wonder, if you will, for nature's continuous unfolding. With these thoughts, and with a sense of gratitude, let us pause for a moment and take our first break to breathe, remembering to find the positions that are most comfortable for us, being at ease, but also alert and ready, prepared. And to prepare us even further, there are parts of our bodies that we wish to soften, starting first with our gaze as we just look ahead, but without any specific focus, or close our eyes, which is always my favorite way of just kind of closing out the rest of the world for these few moments. And then to take inventory, to find all those places that hold us in thrall, really, that hold us captive to our anxieties, our stresses, our worries, our excitement even. Our bodies respond to external stimuli and sometimes over-respond. So let us just release from the tops of our heads to the creases on our foreheads, our ears. Let us allow our jaws just to hang on the jaw hinge, not talking, not eating, not smiling, not frowning, just hanging. And we might roll our neck something I always welcome doing. You hear all the creaks and the creaks. And then we can scrunch up our shoulders and let them drop. And wave the tops of our arms, our elbows, our forearms, and just kind of twirl our wrists, wiggle our fingers. Let them rest comfortably in our laps. And we can go back to our shoulders and inside, trying to let go of all the things we hold on to. I think we hold on to our breath. I think we hold on to our tummies. Let us just let them go. And allow that relaxation to extend to our waists and our hips and our thighs, our knees. We might just flap them back and forth like we did our elbows, the calves of our legs, and maybe even twirl the ankles, one first, the other after, both at the same time, whatever works for you. You might lift your feet, heel, sole, sole, heel, back and forth, wiggle your toes. Imagine you're sitting at the beach with the wind blowing, the sun shining. And I'm so sorry. And it feels so good. It feels so good to just feel the sand covering our feet. And then we take our first breath. Deep and full and easy, but just extended. It's not just it's a filling up into all those places that are now open and more expansive so that we can feel the breath entering. Let us enjoy it, rejoice in it, hold on to it, even not hold on to, but just hold it for a moment. And then release. All at once, slowly. Whatever works, whatever feels good, try everything. And we do it again. And as we breathe in, we might even just think to ourselves, this is February. This is February, and whatever day you are listening to this, you are participating in this, you might fill in the exact day. Today is February 7th, February 7th, February 8th, February 9th, February 10th. And you might repeat it, just today is. Today is. You breathe out. And just be aware of how good it feels. Be aware of the breath coming in, of all the places it might go, of how it feels. See if you can luxuriate in it for a few seconds before you let it go again. For the following reflections, I am indebted to the wisdom of the late Rabbi Jonathan Sacks. Few texts have had a deeper influence on Western civilization than the first chapter of Genesis, with its momentous vision of the universe coming into being as the work of God. Set against the grandeur of the narrative, what stands out is the smallness, yet uniqueness of humans, vulnerable but also undeniably set apart from all other beings. I have always loved the poetry of Psalm 8 that expresses the wonder and humility that each of us recognizes, and that we might imagine the very first couple felt as they beheld the splendor of creation. When I consider your heavens, the work of your finger is the moon and the stars which you have set in place. For us, you have made us little lower than the angels and crowned us with honor and glory. I'm going to have to pause for a moment. You let us rule everything your hands have made, and you put all of it under our power, the sheep and the cattle, and every wild animal, the birds in the sky, the fish of the sea, and all ocean creatures. That is from Psalm 8. Humanity's dominion was granted by God as the culmination of God's creative work. Humanity is commanded, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. This notion is strengthened in Psalm 115 of subduing the earth. The heavens are the Lord's heavens, but the earth God has given to humanity. While the creation narrative clearly establishes God as ruler of the universe, it is the human being who is appointed ruler of the earth. Think about that. It's really an amazing dichotomy. Grappling with the challenging notion of humans as divinely ordained owners and subduers of the earth, we come face to face with the fundamental questions of our place in the universe and our responsibility for it. A literal interpretation suggests a world in which people cut down forests, slaughter animals, dump waste into the seas at their leisure, much like we see in our world today. On the other hand, as Rav Kook, first chief rabbi of Israel, writes, any intelligent person should know that Genesis chapter 1, where it says, does not mean the domination of a harsh ruler who afflicts his people and servants merely to fulfill his personal whim and desire, according to the crookedness of his heart. Could God have really created such a complex and magnificent world solely for the caprice of humans? Genesis chapter 1 is only one side of the complex biblical equation. It is balanced by the narrative of Genesis chapter 2, which features a second creation narrative that focuses on humans and their place in the Garden of Eden. The first person is set in the garden to work it and take care of it. The two Hebrew verbs used here are significant. The first, to work it, the avdah, literally means to serve it. The human being is thus both master and servant of nature. The second, lishomra, means to guard it. This is the verb used in later biblical legislation to describe the responsibilities of a guardian of property that belongs to someone else. This guardian must exercise vigilance while protecting and is personally liable for losses that occur through negligence. This is perhaps the best short definition of humanity's responsibility for nature as the Bible conceives it. We do not own nature. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof is from another psalm. We are its stewards on behalf of God, who created and owns everything. As guardians of the earth, we are duty bound to respect its integrity. The mandate in Genesis 1 to exercise dominion is therefore not technical, but moral. Humanity would control within our means the use of nature towards the service of God. Further, this mandate is limited by the requirement to serve and guard as seen in Genesis 2, the famous story of Genesis 2 and 3, the eating of the forbidden fruit and Adam and Eve's subsequent exile from Eden supports this point. Not everything is permitted. There are limits to how we interact with the earth. The Torah has commandments regarding how to sow crops, how to collect eggs, and how to preserve trees in a time of war, just to name a few. When we do not treat creation according to God's will, disaster can follow. We see this today in myriad ways. We can no longer ignore the massive negative impact that our global industrial society is having on the ecosystems of the earth. Our unbounded use of fossil fuels to fuel our energy-intensive lifestyles is causing global climate change. An international consensus of scientists predicts more intense and destructive storms, floods, and droughts resulting from these human-induced changes in the atmosphere. We all know that if we do not take action now, we risk the very survival of civilization as we know it. Hundreds of years ago, our rabbis created a midrash that says that God showed Adam around the Garden of Eden and said, "Look at my works. See how beautiful they are, how excellent. For your sake, I created them all. See to it that you do not spoil and destroy my world. For if you do, there will be no one else to repair it." Imagine, hundreds of years ago, they foresaw what could happen. Creation has its own dignity as God's masterpiece. And though we have the mandate to use it, we have none to destroy or despoil it. Rabbi Hirsch says that Shabbat was given to humanity in order that we should not grow overbearing in our dominion of God's creation. On the day of rest, we must, as it were, return the borrowed world to its divine owner in order to realize that it is but lent to us. I never thought of Shabbat in quite that way, that it is so tied to the earth and to our temporary dominion and necessity to guard it. Ingrained in the process of creation and central to the life of every Jew is a weekly reminder that our dominion of earth must be L'Shem Shamayim, in the name of heaven. The choice is ours. If we continue to live as though God had only commanded us to subdue the earth, we must be prepared for our children to inherit a seriously degraded planet with the future of human civilization at risk. If we summon the will to see our role as rulers of the earth as a unique opportunity to truly serve and care for the planet, its creatures, and its resources, then we can reclaim our status as stewards of the world and raise our new generations in an environment much closer to that of Eden. This is the vision of Shabbat and the contemporary message of Tu B'Shvat. So let us breathe. Let us breathe in some truths and a vision. And let us set an intention that there are things we can do even today to make that vision a reality. I can even imagine thinking, I am grateful for this world that allows me to breathe. We might do that on the in-breath and on the out-breath. I am grateful for this world that allows me to breathe. I hope you will continue just to enjoy breathing, thinking about the breathing, staying with the breath, staying with this moment. By way of closing, I leave you with some fun facts about Tu B'Shvat, or perhaps little known facts at any rate. Tu B'Shvat is not mentioned in the Torah, but only in the Talmud, so it comes later in its development. The original purpose of Tu B'Shvat was a tax deadline, meaning for tithing, as I said earlier, and only later was it developed into a festival to celebrate trees and eventually the environment. It is a law in the Torah that you are not allowed to cut down a fruit-bearing tree. A cedar tree for a baby boy and a pine tree for a baby girl. And when the baby grows up and gets married, the tree's wood is used for the chuppah. There is a custom to eat extra fruit on Tu B'Shvat, especially fruit from the land of Israel. And some have the custom to eat a type of fruit they have not eaten that season yet. And when we do that, we can say a Shehachianu. So if you have not yet eaten a date, a fig, an orange, you can say a Shehachianu upon eating it. The famous Kabbalist teacher, Rabbi Isaac Luria, had the custom to eat 15 different varieties of fruit on Tu B'Shvat. So if you missed doing that this year, I challenge you to find 15 fruits that you could eat on one single day. Or spread it out over this next week if you choose. And I look forward to seeing you next time. God bless.